Hello, and welcome back to the Collector's Corner, the podcast that demystifies art collecting with me, Antonia Piersanti. Today, I'm speaking with Tobias Gombert in his Berlin home, where he keeps part of his collection. Tobias doesn't come from a collecting family. However, he started developing his eye at a very young age, growing up in Basel at the time where Art Basel started internationalizing. And now, for the past almost 20 years, he has been building an impressive collection that spans many different periods and mediums. With Tobias, we talked about accessibility and how living in a place that values culture and art makes such a big difference, in terms of art you see, of course, but also mentors you meet. Working full-time to fund his passion, Tobias also shares how he approaches buying art from a financial perspective. And finally, he speaks openly about what the new generation of collectors he is part of expects of galleries and institutions if they want to survive in a shifting art market. This was such a great conversation with Tobias, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so hi Tobias.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me today. This is your Berlin place. You have some of your art here, I can see.
Yes.
Really, really wonderful. But you are primarily based in Basel,
Yes. It's
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Yes, the home of Art Basel.
Exactly.
And so you're by day you're an investment professional.
Yeah,
Is that
I'm
right?
a CEO of a family office. We have offices in Berlin, Munich, and Zurich in Switzerland. And I'm mostly the time traveling between working with my teams in the family office, running the businesses, and mostly we invest in direct investments, funds, venture capital, private equity, which gives me the opportunity to travel a bit, which is always good to meet other people and see some art when I'm in Munich and Berlin and Basel.
Amazing. How long have you worked in finance?
I studied finance in Frankfurt. But how many years ago? It's 10 to 15 years ago. I studied in Frankfurt, then straight went into banking, co-founded a own startup during my studies.
Fintech?
No, not a fintech. That was in consumer goods. Sold this company, then worked in banking again, and started with a family office 5 years ago. Then came to Berlin, worked with a family office in Berlin, and then started beginning this year with a other family office out of Munich and Switzerland.
Okay. So you don't have a background in arts. You don't come from a collecting family.
No.
Always been professionally in finance. But you started collecting, I think, almost 15 years ago now.
Yeah, I started really early collecting. How did this come? I'm not born in Switzerland. I grew up in Switzerland. As the family moved from Stuttgart, which we always traveled a lot around in my childhood, we moved to Basel, to Switzerland. In Basel, we always had amazing museums. And how did this come? To discover the quality of the museum and the quality of art in the city was that nearby our house where we moved first, a new museum was built in my early child days, which was the Fondation Bela. And I followed the building process of breaking down an old building instead, where cat museum was inside
cat
before
museum?
Zoom. Yeah, a cat about cats.
Oh, wow.
Was an old building, and then they broke it down, and then they started building the Fondation Bela. Yeah, this process of building something new, getting this museum open, and to visit the building and the museum first was amazing.
How old were you then?
That was at 12, 13 or
Okay, so
something
still
like this.
quite young, yeah.
In the I was still in school there. I discovered quite a lot of different museums in the city, which I only knew from Stuttgart. You had a Kunstmuseum, and one museum you visited once with the family and then perhaps with the school. But in Basel, you had all the bunch of art, of furniture, of everything. And within art, you had all the spectrum from old masters to contemporary art and sculptures and a lot of events and everything. This seems really, really interesting for me. And that was a bit like discovering a new world. And yeah, that was a bit the starting point.
It got you really interested in art itself, right?
Yeah, that was a bit a natural interest. I really love this museums, look at the paintings, understand a bit like old painting, new painting, that within art there's certain periods, certain types of art. I really love this museum Fondation Bähle, which was amazing building and which was great to get and understand a bit the process of like building up a museum, then opening it, and at one day you could visit it, and instead of this old building, there was a beautiful museum with amazing art in there. And I went sometimes to the museum and always met this old guy who was in the museum. I thought was a guard, and he would like talk to me about the art, about paintings.
He was working there?
No. I thought he
You
was
assumed he was
working there,
working
but
there.
he was always around there. Years later, I discovered it was Ernst Bayerle who like talked to me about how to look at paintings, how to look at a Picasso.
So he's
And
the founder of the
the founder of
foundation.
the Fondation, and he was still alive at this time, and he he was at the museum, and you saw him on the street driving with his bicycle around, and he was at the museum, and he told me, if you look at Picasso, you always need to understand that Picasso was influenced by the African sculpture. So always do this reference, always look at the painting, look at the sculpture, understand patterns in a way that was quite interesting for me. Yeah. At this time, I started buying the first books. As you see, I have a lot of books around, and I have, I think, 4,000 books in my library. I have a bit of obsession about books, and I really loved reading about art or seeing catalogs or from different artists.
So
That
is
was a
it
bit a starting point.
like art books about artists
Yeah,
or
mostly art books,
kind of
catalogs,
like
and then
exhibition catalogs? Yeah.
yeah, I really dive dive deep into it, like collecting some artists. I have all the books they ever published, like Kai Althoff. I have only one small Kai Althoff drawing, but I have all his books he ever published. I started collecting the books and getting a bit like in these books and publishing and everything. I'm not buying so much anymore, but that was quite an interesting starting point. And yeah, then in Basel, it's a fair, a trade fair city. You always had two big events. That was watch and jewelry fair, which was always the biggest fair in Basel, and all the city was crowded of people, and it was amazing going at this watch fair, seeing these beautiful watches there. And the other, and these days, this fair is completely gone. It's not existing anymore. And then the other fair was the Art Basel, which was the same vibe. A lot of people from all over the world visiting the city. The city was a bit like developing, came out of this sleeping old town into an international city, and you had art. And there I bought once a day. I was 17 or something. I bought a ticket for Art Basel, which was these days quite expensive. I think 50 Swiss francs, which was quite a high price.
Especially if you're 17, right?
Yeah. So I had to. I spent my money on getting Art Basel ticket on the public days, and yeah, that was amazing because then you walked through this amazing building and you saw all these Picassos and all this amazing art and all these artists you know from the museums, and also knew from some gallery shows already. They were for sale. Yeah, that was a bit like the first thing. Get into this art world, and then you ask about art artwork, and then they saw the answer was, yeah, it's for sale. You could buy it. That was a bit the starting point. Okay, yeah, that's art is accessible in a way.
It felt like quite familiar from the get-go because you were in this place that was where you were basically surrounded by museum galleries, and one day as a 17-year-old deciding to go to the art fair, it sounds like you were quite comfortable already in that world.
Yeah, it seems it was accessible, yeah, and this access was only possible because you had these low-hanging fruits in a way of access to museums, to exhibitions. It
Yeah.
was easy accessible, and it was really common to go there. It was every Sunday, first Sunday in the month. It was for free, and on this Sunday I went to the
Yeah.
museum without paying, and I went to 3 museums in a row, and it was easy accessible. And in Basel, that's something which is really special to the city, that this interest for art is really embedded in the cultural interest of the most people living there. So if you think about this Picasso, they collected in the city for buying one Picasso work to to keep it in the museum. And everybody in the city was giving a few
Mm.
Swiss francs until they had the money buying this painting. And
Yeah.
Picasso uh, gifted them 3 others, and
Wow.
that's a bit a special connection of
Yeah.
how this way of cultural interest collecting is really embedded in the society there. Yeah, I would say. It was an amazing situation. That was really a starting point, and for me, the best access I could ever get.
Yes.
And the other person who really helped me in getting into the art scene around Art Basel was, yeah, Sam Keller, who I met. He was still director of Art Basel. Basel is not a big city, and if you went out as an 18-year-old going to a bar and with some other people you already knew from the museums or from Kunsthalle and from the art world. One day I met Sam, and Sam is really like ground, grounded person, really no no barrier talking to anybody.
So he's the former director
It
of
was the
Art
former
Basel?
director of Art Basel these days. He founded Art Basel Miami, this like brought Art Basel to other cities. And now he is director of Fondation Bella. And we talked to each other. Then I told him, yeah, Art Basel, I know Art Basel. I bought a ticket. They're quite expensive, but that's amazing. I really loved it. And these days, I bought a first small drawing. I forgot the name of the artist, which was really not relevant at Volta Fair, which was another fair around Art Basel. I told him I bought the first artwork and really loved it. And yeah, then he told me, okay, here's a ticket, here's my number. I put you on the list. You get invitation for the next fair. You could visit on a preview day, some evening. I went to the fair with a ticket he gave me, yeah, and that was
VIP.
quite, yeah, a bit. It was not VIP. It was something else, but it was not on the first days. But I didn't have to pay for it, and it was quite amazing. Like easy start and surrounded by people like him. A few years later, he took me to Miami. It was, I think, the last year as he running Art Basel, and that was a bit a starting point of getting to know other cities and getting to know all this system about art, all a bit more interest in how the art market is working.
Yeah.
And that was the time I left Basel, moved to Frankfurt, studying there economics and finance and banking. And then these questions about market, about trading, about prices, and all these interests came up, and that was quite interesting. And like I saw this collecting a bit like had an interest in art, and then I got a bit more understanding about how markets are structured and how you are trading and what is the price of artwork and what is the price difference. And that was quite an interesting journey. Yeah?
So you said you bought a piece when you were 17, 18,
Yeah.
but that you don't remember. So what's in your mind, what's the starting point of your collector journey?
It was not rational. If you spend a bit of money on art, which was for me, as I'm not coming from a big family, and all I spent in art I had to earn before myself. And the first artwork I bought, it really hurts in a way
You
of
mean
money, yeah,
financially it was
financially, yeah, in a way.
okay, yeah, yeah.
And the first really so bigger artwork, so that everybody around told me, "No, you are really crazy. That's like you couldn't spend, I think these days, 7 or 8,000 euro on an artwork. Why didn't you buy a car instead of artwork?" And that was a bit like starting point. It was always a bit a calculation. Could I buy a car, or could I go for a holiday, or could I buy a watch, or could I or spend my
Yeah,
money in art?
you
So that
prioritize
was
the art.
prioritized, and it was always first. It was always art.
How old were you then? Early 20s?
20, 1920. Yeah.
Was it a spur of the moment purchase, or had you identified the
No, that was
artist?
a bit like a bit of process. Artist I saw on a fair, then I followed this artist. I bought the catalog, then I saw a show, and then I really bought the work, which was like doing a proper investment. Yeah, that was a bit the starting point of collecting, and
And this painting was it was a painting, right?
that was a painting. Yeah,
Christian Apes,
yeah,
that was
yeah,
your
yeah,
first one.
yeah.
Okay. Have you collected more of that artist since?
I bought one other drawing about this artist, but not really followed the completely like bought a bunch of works.
Okay.
That started a bit later, buying different works by the same artist. After I bought the first work on the art fair, then yeah, bought the other one at Liste, at Art Basel, following young artists I thought which are interesting. So then I discovered there's an auction market. Yeah, you're doing research using the internet, Googling, and then you're finding some days, oh, there's an auction market there, which was quite interesting. That was in the German market. It was Ketterer. They had a really good website. Like the internet was quite not new, but not everybody had
Yeah.
online catalogs. But they really had a good, still today, a good website. You could follow with the artist. And I bought the first work on the auction. Started in changing the collecting a bit more in older art, which was interesting in a perspective
You mean
of
not contemporary?
not contemporary. Then I started a bit like um, uh, buying older artists,
Yeah.
older artists in a way of I saw at the museum like Man Ray or some artists like this. I only knew from the museum. I knew the artists from the art fair. At the art fair, the prices were not reachable for me, and at this point, I had the situation. Okay, yeah, that's possible to buy it. Yeah, to buy it in my price range. Yeah, limitation was always the money I could spend
Of course.
on art. Yeah.
So did you have then a number of artists that you really loved, including older ones, those you would follow at auctions, see if there is
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
opportunities, and then the more emerging ones or contemporary ones,
yeah,
art fairs, galleries as well?
yeah,
At that
yeah,
point, you
yeah,
started building
yeah.
relationships with galleries?
Yeah, then I started by building relationships with galleries. We had in Basel, you had some amazing galleries in the city. You had amazing galleries in Zurich. I really followed the gallery program and a bit the artists and a bit more special works.
Okay.
And then I built up a bit my artist relationships, gallery relationships. At this point, I understood there's a connection in between the galleries. Yeah, you have a network of different galleries working with each other. Yeah, you have a German or European gallery, and then this gallery would have other US or Asian gallery they are cooperating with, and they're sharing some artists. And if you are interested in these artists, you might find somebody of this program in this gallery. And that was interesting of understanding these dealer connections or gallery connections, which are really important until today, as the galleries are really struggling. But these connections are important for the artists as well. Yeah. So that was a bit the journey of buying a first artwork, then getting into a bit more auction market, buying older works. If as you see, I have contemporary works together with 18th century paintings, and my Nazarena collections really fit to Anne Imhoff works. What I'm interested in this showing these both sides and getting these patterns.
So tell me a little bit more about that, because I noticed it when I walked in. I saw, okay, there's some older works, some contemporaries, there's photography, there's sculpture. You've been collecting for a while now, and I can imagine that there is a philosophy that drives your collecting or your specific approach, and it probably has evolved over time as well.
Yeah. So my imagination of the collection, I would have collect if I had the possibility. That would be quite a painting focus, contemporary, a lot of concept art, and building a foundation coming from the abstract expressionism to the European informal, then developing into a bit more contemporary painting school, a bit like the German painting school of the 1890s, and then going over into a more conceptual contemporary art. So at this time, I started collecting artists around the Städelschule in Frankfurt, which was quite reachable for me as I lived in the city. You got in touch with the artists. At this point, I really got in touch with, not with the galleries, I got in touch with the artists. That was a bit a turning point in a way of like understanding about how the artists are working, how the artists building their own network and connections in the city, in the from the universities to the galleries.
Do you ever buy directly from artists?
Yeah, then I bought directly from artists. In Frankfurt, it was Offenbach. That was like Maltezensis. I bought directly from Städelschule, like Anne Imhoff, or from the Kunstverein. Yeah, so from non-profit shows, or like museum shows, or like Kunstverein shows.
So you mean like artist associations, not in a gallery, not in a museum, not okay.
Yeah.
You still buy from the studio?
I really have strong connections to some artists. Still buy from the studio. Then it's always okay. What's the relationship? I have some artists I don't have any relationship to the gallery. I wouldn't buy through the gallery at this point. I would buy directly from the artist, as I have the early access there. But I have artists where I have a good relationship to the gallery as well, and I understand what is the value of a gallery. And I definitely would buy from the studio to the gallery. So as I know the gallerist, as I know the artist, and
so in that case, you would buy through the gallery.
Yeah. So that I couldn't do it. The relationship to a gallery is quite important. The most galleries are doing a really, really good job. What I don't like are these dealer galleries. At dealing galleries, you have some galleries doing a good job there as well, but I'm not interested in buying from a dealing perspective. I'm interested in buying from a gallery who's doing a great work for the artist, helping develop his artist's career, to get him into other museum shows, to get him into different networks, to publishing a first catalog, to support this sort of work. Yeah. So that's quite important. At the end, it's always economy behind. It's always a bit and a bet on a price, and at the end, it's a business for everyone. When I have the opportunity in a way of early access or better knowledge, like through auction houses, or understand a bit more the value of an artist, which is not really represented by the price, or there's not a really market at this moment, but I really love this artist and think it's important in a connection to be shown next to other artwork I have. And I see a connection for me at this point. I really love combine this. Yeah.
Before you buy a piece, what do you consider? What do you think about, and what sort of drives your decision?
I'm not buying really, really strategic.
What do you mean by
Really
strategic?
strategic in a way of like thinking what's the next, not next upcoming star, because he's working with this gallery and that's the new prices on the auctions, and this a bit like dealing between primary and secondary market, and then the galleries are raising the prices, waiting lists, and everything. Yeah, what's occurring within the market. Out of these, I'm not really buying strategic. I'm following a program, I'm following artists, or I'm following a gallery program, and then I seeing a good show, or see a good artwork at a review, or at the fair, or at the auction, and I really think that's important. I really love the work. I think it's relevant.
What do you mean by that? When you say I see a good artwork,
Yeah, for me,
would
it's
you
all
define that?
it's so I have my special taste. So I would say that's at the end, it's taste, and I have a special eye. I would, for me, say I have a good eye, an eye which is a bit more focused on painting, a bit more focused on a certain period, a certain style. Perhaps they have a good knowledge. You see, it's developing a special
Like a connection, or
connection, or I would say. Yeah. At the end, it's really train how to look at art. Yeah, it's train the eye. Yeah, it's about see pattern, recognition style, periods. The best school discovering this is going to auction houses. At the auction house, it's the it's a best museum. It's a free entrance. It's no barrier. You could take the pictures from the wall. You could turn it. You could even buy it. Yeah. So but at the end, it's not filtered. Yeah. It's not a curated show. Yeah. It's perhaps a bit like what is hanging on this wall or this wall. You see they're putting the expensive works on this and there. That was really a good training, going to auction houses, going through the archives, as many of the works at some auction houses are even not hanging around, going through the archives and look at them, and turning them around and see, you get a bit of feeling about quality. This needs a lot of time, a lot of research, look at books, a bit like studying around this topic, and then you see some pattern in the artist to
you said
define
that.
if it's a good work or not.
Yeah, you said that a few times. The pattern
Yeah.
recognition. So that comes from obviously seeing a lot of art
Yeah.
in different contexts, but also studying more proactively like movements or specific
Yeah,
artists.
yeah, and time and regions, and that's that's quite interesting to, like, you have to travel a lot, you have to visit museums, visit artist studios, visit galleries to, and yeah, to discover the different styles, the different artists. The end you could tell most likely this is coming around Asia, this is a bit more European movement. That's early Paris in the 60s. This is really helping.
Okay. So for someone who's just starting out collecting or who wants to start, is that where you how you recommend people spend most of their time then?
Yeah, you need to find your own pattern. You need to find your own system. You need to create your eye, yeah, your knowledge, your understanding. You need to get in touch with this system, yeah. You need to learn the rules of the game. Um,
But how?
at the end, it's as you starting playing tennis, yeah. First, you need to get on your shoes. You need to get off to the court, and if you don't get a trainer and you're not able to pay for a trainer, yeah, you need to have a friend or somebody on the other side who need to help you first playing. And if you're not able to do this, you need to sit on the side and you need to look, yeah, and only watch. And what would I recommend a young collector? You need a bit free cash flow, free money, which is
Do you have a
not.
budget, by the way? Do you recommend
Yeah,
having a budget?
I'm always trying budget. That's never working. So I'm always spending more money than I would love to do in art. Budget increases over the time, but that's important. Like to have a budget, to know, okay, I have to spend money, and for me, all I'm spending in art, for me, it's written off money. Yeah, so I'm not investing in art.
Okay.
So the art is hanging around. It's a hobby. It's like going to drink a nice bottle of wine. You had a nice evening, and with the art you have fun. I know what works are getting more expensive, or which artist has not a rising career, but I'm not I'm not investing in art. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't invest in art. Even you start collecting, collect art, spend money in art. And I would say I'm spending money in art. I'm not building up a collection. Yeah. The collection would be, I need a proper storage. I have a bit of storage, or like some artworks I couldn't hang.
So
Um
just
yeah,
that's interesting. What do you mean by I don't have a proper collection?
Yeah, a proper collection would be, I have a museum with storage about 1,000 artworks, and I couldn't live with my artworks.
Why is that what defines a collector?
That's for me the definition. For me, I'm collecting art as well, but at the end I'm buying art. Yeah? So I'm not collecting art in a way. I'm building up a proper collection with a museum, with a special purpose and everything. Yeah.
You own a
Um,
private
so
collection though.
yeah, but it's a private collection. I put paintings on the wall. Yeah. So, and I want to live with the paintings. Yeah. And I'm not creating a museum. Yeah? The most interesting people are the people who are living with their art. They have the paintings on the wall. They have relationship to the galleries, to the artists. They could tell a story to every painting, to every artwork they have. And that's the most interesting thing. What's my definition of buying and collecting? It's a bit like I'm buying art, I'm collecting art here, but I don't have a collection which gets out there the stamp. That's a collection. Yeah.
Mm. So do you have a vision though for your personal collection, for the art that you buy?
I'm always try to live with the art. I don't have that many walls and that many space, and I'm trying to buy less and a bit like better quality or smaller works. Always looking for smaller works which has the same quality than a big work.
Is
Yeah,
that because of space?
that's a bit a space, and I find paintings interesting which are 3 to 4 meter, but then they wouldn't fit anywhere. Yeah, but it's interesting to look at them. I'm trying to these days to buy less, but a bit more smaller works, but a good quality. I'm buying less than I did 5 or 10 years ago.
Mm. You mentioned a few times you're quite fond of abstract art.
Yeah.
Is that a theme across your collection? I mean, I
Mm.
see a few things that wouldn't necessarily qualify
Yeah,
as
no,
abstract
that's a
here.
bit. At the end, it's thinking out of the box, and that's the most relevant. And thinking out of the box is abstract painters were thinking out of the box, and in contemporary art as well. And at the end, that's what I'm interested in. So art needs always to be inspiration for me. So within a job with a lot of figures and things which are really countable Excel models, and at this point, it's quite creative. Yeah, I'm more likely interested in abstract works or abstract art as a topic than in concrete art. It needs to leave space for imagination, and
Okay.
I really love this conversation with the artist about the artworks, and to leave this creative freedom.
Do you always meet the artists before you
Mm,
buy a
I'm
piece?
I'm I try to meet the artist or a bit like have a relationship. I don't have a relationship to the artist. I have some artists. I bought a few works a few years ago, and after this, I met meeting the artist the first time. But I'm trying to collect in my time, as I'm collecting with galleries and support the artist. I'm collecting within my time.
From your
So
generation?
my
Yeah.
generation, or the generation or the time of the galleries of my time.
Yeah.
There are some galleries representing older artists or which already died, but who are showing a really contemporary young program. Then I'm following a bit more the gallery program, but at the end I'm trying to get a bit know the person behind.
I like thinking outside of the box.
Mhm,
That's a nice theme,
mhm,
but also from your generation
mhm. Yeah, yeah,
majoritarily. Okay, it's very interesting. Do you have any pieces that you don't like where you
yeah.
thought,
I have a few which mostly I'm giving to the rest of the family or to friends.
but
And
I mean more from, because I spoke to a collector who said, I don't need to like a piece to buy it. It
mhm.
needs to.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Have you ever
So
done that too?
I have some works. I think they're really relevant. They're really relevant of a perspective, and perhaps I'm not really ready for this specific work at this point. And perhaps it's getting better over the years, and this could happen in both sides. It's
Yeah.
either creates value or personal value,
Yeah.
or it the value decrease, and
I think
you're selling the works again. So
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the time the advice you get, when you're considering buying arts is, well, just buy art that you like. So
mhm.
I thought it was interesting that this person said, well, actually, I don't need to like the piece as
No,
long as
it's
it
a bit like it's
speaks to me on some
yeah,
level.
yeah. You need some battle with the work, and you need to get to the moment you're thinking you're buying a work or you're interested in buying a work, and then you're getting home and say, that was really that was not a good purchase. That was not a good work. And then you're thinking about, and then it's getting better or it's getting worse. That could happen. So I think you need this, this
Tension a little
feeling,
bit. Huh?
tension, around it.
Interesting. You've mentioned also you obviously know a lot of people now in that world, and you're also an active member of a couple of museum
Yeah,
boards, right?
Kunstverein,
Yeah,
institutions.
the National Gallery in
Yeah,
Berlin.
Berlin, that's getting a bit boring, but some other institutions are really doing a good job. And
Would you say that's a way in also for people?
institutions are really important. Some institutions are doing a good job. Some are doing not a good job anymore. National Gallery Berlin, that's a disaster.
Why?
They're not thriving, not showing what our time is offering. They're not developing anymore. That's a bit like they stuck.
Yeah.
But if you go to Hamburger Bahnhof, they're doing an amazing job with the two directors. If you go to Kunstwerke or Schinkel Pavilion in Berlin, Haus am Waldsee, they're starting creating really a movement. Some institutions had their time, and as a National Gallery in 100 years, they will still exist, but for me, this program is not interesting anymore these days. Yeah. And which is important to support institutions who are creating value to the artists, to the ecosystem, and to the society around. Yeah. And that's important. I want to be on the peak of driving a new art scene, innovation, access, new topics, and that's interesting to support.
Yeah. There's a bit of a shift, right, at the moment, and in generations as well.
Mm.
I mean, you're a good example of this new generation. But there's also, galleries are suffering. A lot of moving pieces at the moment,
Yeah.
I'm gathering. So what is your view on the future?
A lot of galleries are suffering at the moment. A lot of museum institutions are suffering. As you're driving your business, if you don't invest in the future of the technology, and if you don't invest in your customers, and if you don't go with the time, you will lose. And at the end, at some points, it's really they're closing down some really good galleries I really love. In New York, on paying too much rent, that's a bit like economical system, but at the end, you need to renew your business. If you don't renew on the business, and if you rely on your existing customers, yeah, at one point you have to pay the price for it. It's part of the game. Somebody else is getting the opportunity to start something new. And I really want to help and be connected with the new upcoming system to create or to be part of a system which is renewing itself. Or I want to invest with a gallery which are spending in their business, and not only buy a shop, create a shop. So you need to do a pitch every day to a customer, and that's quite interesting. Looking on the institutions, all the institutions are struggling, and the institutions who are not struggling are these ones who understand their approach and their their offering, and pitch it to somebody. To pitch it as a startup pitching for funding. And if you get into this pitching mode,
So more entrepreneurial.
more entrepreneurial, National Gallery, they're asking the people, we need money, you need to pay for it. No, I'm not paying for it. Yeah, you need to improve your system. You need to tell me why. What's your approach? Yeah, I'm not giving money to such institutions anymore. Yeah, but if a director, perhaps Hamburger Bahnhof, they're coming and pitching a project and telling, okay, we want to do these exhibitions, we want to reach this audience. That's our plan, that's our business plan, that's our funding plan. We have a gap, but that's a completely other approach, and these people will win.
Yeah.
This is a hard learning process on all levels, and that's a hard learning process on the artist side, on the collector side, galleries, museum, institutions. As the people get more informed, at the end, you need to pitch ideas.
Yeah.
As I need to pitch what I'm doing every day. I need to renew, I need to be innovative and
proactive, entrepreneurial, innovative. We're going to see more and more of that sort of approach.
Absolutely. Like the collectors getting more involved and more informed. They know the prices on auction houses, what is going on. The people and you need to communicate. I think the time is over to create a gallery which is organized like a shop.
Yeah.
You need to create a purpose and you need to pitch an idea.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. Okay. A couple more questions. How would you describe your collection in one word?
One word. It's difficult. It's a lot of patterns.
Patterns.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like that. What's the last piece you purchased?
Simon Lehnert.
So who is a collector you look up to?
A collector I look up to, I would say it's Wilhelm Schürmann, German-based collector. His photographer was professor in Aachen. He comes from an amazing photo collection, collecting a lot of painting, contemporary art. And he was the first one. He used Instagram as a platform, and he was like a trader sitting at home with two screens on his desk, see all shows online. He was the one took me to a lot of galleries, to Berlin, train a bit how to look at things, create this eye. Yeah.
And he's still active on Instagram?
He's still active. Yeah, you should follow him on Instagram and check him out. And it's happened over 17 now. And yeah, he was an influential collector to me.
We'll definitely check him out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tobias.
Yes.
It was
Thank
really
you.
fun. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I'm Antonia, and this was The Collector's Corner. If you enjoyed this episode, please share, subscribe, and follow. I would love to hear from you. You can reach me on social media or on the podcast website, thecollectorscornerpodcast.com. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time.